videos starts to look at a very important part of mathematics and of general life, really, called geometry. Now, geometry is a branch of mathematics and it's concerned with the properties of space, such as distance, shape, size, relative position of figures, etc. And it's one of the oldest branches of mathematics. Now, there isn't enough time to cover the history here, as we're going to be looking at the basics of geometry, but it's something worth looking at because it dates back to the times when people started to build buildings and their homes and structures, and it sort of dates back all the way to beyond ancient Greece, ancient um, Egypt, and those sort of times. So it's a really rich history, and it's been developed along the way. So a basic part of geometry is angles, and we're going to start looking at that in this series of videos. And so the best way to describe an angle is it's a description between the relationship between two lines that intersect, which means that they cross over or they meet. So if you had one line and another line, this is the point of intersection where they meet. And then we can describe this as the relationship between those two lines by angles. And we have a sign to show the quantity, the units of the angle, and this is the degree sign. So wherever you see that, then you call that degree. So the maximum angle is 360 degrees. And here's an example of 360-degree angle. Imagine that there is a line here and that you move that line all the way around in a circle, not quite in a square, but in a circle, and you come back to where you started from, then the total angle that is moved through in that process is 360 degrees. Now imagine that you have a line that is laid out flat. So these are two lines. That's one line, that's another, and this blob indicates where they intersect. Then the angle between these two lines when it's laid flat is 180 degrees. And 180 degrees is half of 360. So you can imagine the line sort of like there. So that's where 180 comes from. And imagine if this line were to be moved up, so it was in the upright position, and that gives it this. And this is called a right angle. And a right angle is 90 degrees, which happens to be half of 180, of course, and is signified by this square. So wherever you see this square, if an angle is not specified, then it is 90 degrees. That's 90 degrees angle between the two. Now that is fixed, and it helps us because if you can imagine this right angle, and here's a sign showing that it's a right angle, and we know that this is 90 degrees, and if we know that this is 20 degrees, let's say, and we're asked to work out what that is, well, quite simply, C here equals 90, which is the total angle of this, minus 20, which gives 70 degrees. So by knowing one of these angles and knowing that this is a right angle, we can work out what the unknown is. So C is obviously this angle minus 20. Now there are different types of angle, and there are angles called acute angles. And if it's ever mentioned anywhere, an acute angle, well, it's mentioned in loads of places, then an acute angle is less than 90 degrees. So if you can imagine that this is 90 degrees, any angle which is less than any of those lines and any of those angles are called acute angles. So keep that in mind. Again, imagine this is the right angle. Any angle which extends from the 90, that goes all the way to it being flat. It's called an obtuse angle. So obtuse angles are between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So keep that in mind. And the third sort of angle is a reflex angle. And a reflex angle, so these are two lines here that intersect here, and the angle between them in this direction is called a reflex angle. So this line here shows you the angle that we're considering. Now, if there wasn't that and there was just a line here, then this would be an acute angle. But here, this is showing you that this is the angle we're interested in. And so the reflex angle is between 180 degrees and 360 degrees.